So I'm still away from home right now, but you know that doesn't stop the grind from bringing the news, the stories to you guys. So in today's video, Michigan voters just did something that Congress has been arguing about for months now, ladies and gentlemen. A ballot measure pushing voter ID and voter roll review just submitted 750,000 signatures, far above what's required. Meanwhile, in Washington, they're still debating something 83% of Americans already agree on. And so now the question is, why is Congress dragging its feet while voters move forward? And so we're going to break it all down. As always, smash that thumbs up button. That's the best way to let me know you enjoy the content. To stay locked in with future videos, subscribe and turn on all for your notifications. Let's get right into it.
Ballot proposal campaign we told you about last month says they've gotten more than 700,000 signatures. Now it's up to the State Bureau of Elections and the Board of State Canvassers to confirm their validity. Our El Myers is getting answers on the next steps in the process.
We submitted over 750,000 signatures yesterday to the Secretary of State. And now we look forward to a speedy review by the Bureau of Elections and approval by the Board of Canvassers to get us on the ballot for November of 2026.
If passed by the voters, the Americans for Citizens Voting ballot proposal would create a new voter ID requirement and voter roll verification. That number of signatures, Combs tells me, is well over the required threshold of 446,198.
We're well over that total, over 300,000 more than we need, and also more than 4 months early ahead of the July 6th deadline for certification for the ballot.
Next, the State Bureau of Elections will verify those petition signatures.
And so you've seen and you heard that, ladies and gentlemen. And it's not just about the obvious types of fraud, where people think about non-citizens participating and being able to vote in elections. No, it's also about what officials like to downplay as errors in the system. I'm talking about situations where people who aren't even alive anymore are still being left on voter rolls. Take a listen.
Respectfully, Representative Smith, the fact that there are, in fact, some errors that happen in the system. Every system has errors, and it doesn't mean that there are not safeguards in place. There are safeguards, and you as a clerk, having done many registrations previously, understand that there's a process that you go through. And you can ask NASA. There's no process that doesn't have some error inherent in the system.
Okay, thank you. And you're very right. When I was a clerk, there were lots of errors in the system. That's largely why I am here. I took off a dead voter in my township. And guess what? That dead voter was put back on. Not by me. That was done by the Secretary of State's office. So we need to do a lot of fixing here in our elections. When I was a clerk at Martin Township, there was a family member who at one point was registered at my in-laws' home, and that family member had died nearly 20 years prior. They were put on the rolls at 2020. They were mailed voter application ballots without the authorization to do that. That's the local clerk's job. So I went in there, removed her from the voting rolls because I know firsthand this family member is dead and deceased. Just this past election cycle, lo and behold, that person was put back on the voter rolls and has a card of the early voting location polling that I actually have and can produce. And that's a problem.
And so let's break this down, because if someone is still listed as an active voter, ballots can still be sent out in their name. And if the wrong person gets access to that ballot, yes, now you create an opportunity for abuse that did not need to exist in the first place. And that really is the bigger issue here. It's not just about proving fraud after the fact. No, it's about why leave the system open to that kind of risk at all. And voter ID helps to close those loopholes, at least some of them, that are left open when government errors, which will happen always when you're talking about government. They're always going to happen. That's going to exist. But if you can get rid of or limit the errors and remove the chance of those errors being manipulated, that's something that needs to be done. But let's continue. So right now, it's basically a law. You need ID, but it's not really enforced, because you can just show up, sign a paper, say you are who you say you are, and they'll let you pass. And listen, while that may be enough to prevent non-citizens from voting, I've got to be honest. What about citizens who want to push an election in a certain direction and know the ins and out of how it works, and that no one is going to follow up and check if they're who they say they are? Or a few individuals who fill out hundreds, if not thousands, of ballots. That's where I think it's actually more dangerous, There are a lot of people who are sniffing the blue glue, and it can drive them to do some pretty crazy things in the name of getting their candidate elected. And so voter ID helps to stop things like that also. Let's continue. So it really doesn't matter if it's a small percentage of voter fraud. The goal should be to improve the system and make it as safe as possible. Some of these local elections come down to a handful of votes, and so any fraudulent votes is one too many. They have more than enough signatures, far exceeded the requirement, which tells you how cut and dry this issue is, despite what's going on in Congress right now, where Democrats are blocking it and Republicans are too weak to do what's necessary to get the bill passed with the Save America Act. But I want to get into this next clip that pretty much sums up how Democrat leaders tell you that there's no fraud. We catch the fraud when it does happen. It's a lie because they have to protect their position. So let's get into this clip where James Wolford, a rep out of Michigan, Republican rep out of Michigan, decided that he would do a little experiment and put the security of Michigan's welfare application to the test by applying under a fake name and using the Michigan governor's address. And guess what? He was able to bypass the Social Security and illegal alien checks on the applications. Shocker, right? Let me repeat that. He used the governor's address and a fake name, and he was able to bypass the system, ladies and gentlemen. Not only that, he was offered an opportunity to register to vote at the end of the application. But check it out for yourself. Take a listen.
Instead, on the screens, much like these ones that are before you, I brought up the website where you can apply for benefits. I started applying for those benefits using Governor Whitmer's address, so a real address with a fake name. I was able to bypass the Social Security, alien number, and never getting denied benefits at the very end, getting registered to vote. So my question is, why would we not mandate Social Security numbers or alien numbers on a website? We'll talk about this more, but why would we spend $16 million on an upgrade to a website and not allow for someone or mandate someone to log in to use a Social Security number or an alien number when we're handing out $3 billion? So, and the other question I would have is, why has this not been fixed? We brought this up to the Department of Health and Human Services, and you can still go on the website today and do exactly what we did before.
We've seen blue states that don't want the federal government to have access to voter rolls so they can verify and validate. They just want you to trust them. When they say there's no fraud going on here, you're supposed to just go and believe it. Not question anything and just let them continue operating business as usual without scrutiny. We've seen fraud in all kinds of areas of government. Look at the welfare fraud with SNAP benefits. That was uncovered. Minnesota, obviously, the level of fraud being uncovered shows what happens due to a lack of government oversight or willful incompetence. I'll let you choose. And so what makes us think voting, something that affects a lot of people's lives and well-being, something people build entire careers around when their candidate gets elected, is somehow immune? Do we really think that just because these state governments say there's no fraud, that is actually not happening? I don't believe it one bit. Not at all. And they'll keep up the act as long as they can because it benefits them to stay in power. But those are my thoughts on the update. Now I want to hear from you. Drop your comment down below. As always, you enjoy the content, smash that thumbs up button. That's the best way to let me know. Stay locked in with future videos. Subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.